Hello, good evening, and peace be upon you on this beautiful Sunday evening. And today I will be reading some more of Western global news, basically European news, but also some news from the region and wider region of the Balkans, but also from elsewhere. So let's get to it, that we don't lose too much time. So the first news is it's from 1st of February. It says that EU sanctions German journalists quote-unquote propal for causing quote-unquote ethnic and religious discord. The European Union has sanctioned one of its citizens, a German journalist, for some of the content of his articles. He reports it Inside Over, and the name of the professional is Hussein Dogru, who for months, due to the European sanctions, has found himself unable to do his job, access his own money, and is in difficulty due to legal constraints associated with them. The reporter of Turkish origins was accused of quote-unquote ethnic, political and religious discord. Through his investigation, propal, quote-unquote, but he is also accused of also support the military operations against Europe carried out by the Kremlin. At the moment, also his bank accounts are blocked. Finding himself like this, his colleague explains directly to the newspapers, unable to provide for himself and his family. However, it appears that Brussels has not provided any evidence of ties to Moscow and to proceed legally. Journalist answers, basically journalist lawyer says that silence German participation in Gaza genocide, quote-unquote. So, in an interview given to Junge Welt, lawyer Gorski explained that he believed it was intimidation of his client with the aim of, quote-unquote, silencing a journalist who critically questions the reason of state and the participation of Germany and the EU in the genocide in Gaza, unquote. Inside Over also explains. If that were the case, it would be a most dangerous precedent for the freedom to inform and to be informed, especially from the moment when Netanyahu is wanted by the International Court of Justice for war crimes and crimes against humanity. And the United Nations has also spoken out against plausible genocide underway in the Gaza Strip since October 7, 2023. Something similar has already happened, however, with the European sanctions against Jacques Paul, the former colonel of the Swiss intelligence services, and today geopolitical analysts, but also with journalists in Europe defined or discredited as quote-unquote bloggers. Their names were, for example, Thomas Roper and Alina Lip. So, a different case also comes to mind, but similar to the climate of censorship. The story of the Italian journalist Gabriele Nunziati, fired by the Nova agency in October-November 2025, following a question posed to the European Commission. Nunziati had asked whether Israel should finance the reconstruction of Gaza, similar to what Russia had requested for Ukraine. The question was called technically wrong, quote-unquote, by the agency. The question sparked controversy and gained support for the journalist, even leading to a parliamentary question on the issue. A few days later, however, the Nova agency interrupted its collaboration, defining the application as quote-unquote misplaced and erroneous. So this is from the 1st of February. It's not basically the journalists are being put in the awkward positions. So yeah, this is one of these news articles, what was in the articles. It has been read, so let's go to the second news. It's also from the 1st of February 2026. It says that Iran has decided, quote-unquote, European armies are terrorists. The declaration after sanctions and the EU anti-Pasdaran move. So, what the article is about, basically the article says that the Speaker of the Iranian Parliament, Mohammed Bagher Ghalibat, he stated that the armies of European countries are officially considered terrorists by the Islamic Republic of Iran. Ali Larijani, Secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council, had announced that, quote-unquote, based on a resolution of the Islamic Consultative Assembly, the armies of the countries involved in the recent EU resolution, unquote, against the Pasdaran are, quote-unquote, considered terrorists by Tehran. It is also, but not only, a response to the classification of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards as a terrorist organization by the European Union. Pasdaran terrorists and renewal of sanctions against Tehran. On January, EU foreign ministers also approved a new package of sanctions against Iran, addressed both to government figures accused of human rights violations and to entities linked to Tehran's military and armaments program. In parallel, the EU confirmed its intention to formally place the IARGC on the list of terrorist organizations. But let us retrace the very last and complex event in the tensions between the so-called enlarged West and Tehran. In June 2025, Israel launched the quote-unquote 12-day war unquote, against the Iranian Republic, continued by the US, pacified by the US President Donald Trump for the pro-Atlantic media. The winter protests and the declared interference of the CIA and Mossad, this is continuation of the article, this is allegedly what the article says, it's not anything, I mean research it, this is what the article says, I will give you the source even. So between December and January 2026, heavy intelligence interference and military interference were candidly announced by Mossad and the CIA in popular protest against the Ayatollah's government, who tried to foment civil war in Tehran. At the root of the protests, economic suffering, due also and those sanctions started way back in 1979. Described as harmless quote-unquote packages, are actually leg hold traps for the families and businesses that suffer them. Sanctions have been imposed by the United States since 1979. Then, since 2011, the European Union has joined, introducing a sanctions regime against Iran, motivated as deterrence against quote-unquote serious human rights violations unquote, in the country. Since then, the sanctions have been renewed annually and were last extended until April 14, 2026. So we see a Stephen European Union increasingly aligned with the US geopolitical lines, ready to place state entities on a terrorist list without the intellectual and political honesty to also assess and measure its own international conduct. Here there is that. And let's go further with the news. The next one is about a little bit more controversial. It's about Marx and Nietzsche in 2026. Everything they predicted has become like apparent. In this basically thing is a discussion between that Marx and Nietzsche did not remain in the books. Their ideas have been translated into languages, system of power, cultural conflicts, vision of man and society that we take for granted today. So, what are these points? It says that from the transformation of the class struggle in identity conflict to the nihilism become the norm, from the end of the master's figure until the domain of the technique and the algorithm on the human. In the comparison with basically this thought process, an uncomfortable thesis emerges. So Marx and Nietzsche were translated but also betrayed. And our present arises precisely from this misunderstanding, often far from innocent. How much did they really predict? Where they were right, and above all, who governs today what they set in motion? Well, this is more of geopolitical and philosophical questions, of course. So let's go get further with the news. Let's follow this article with some more news. Otherwise, we would need to discuss it, to a lengthy road ahead. Because I don't have any discourse with me, I won't do that. So the next one is that clashes has become a norm in Torino. The government accelerates the security decree. So, new security decree coming after the clashes in Torino. In the last few hours, the national demonstration against the eviction of the social center Ascatusuna produces fire clashes and the beating of a policeman. So, the article says that it was the fault of a small group which with the arrival of darkness broke away from the peaceful procession seeking conflict with law enforcement. And quote unquote, the article says, "We will do what is necessary to restore the rules in this nation," announced Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni convening a new government meeting. So there are several criticisms regarding the security decree. There is talk of democracy of control and of the surveillance, of ambiguity and intimidation. The fear is that there is a desire to limit any kind of mobilization constitutionally guaranteed, and the hypothesis that the clashes are orchestrated by the same people who want to hastily approve the bill. So there's that. I already reported on that. Now it's advancing. So let's get, without further ado, let's get further that we won't have too lengthy news for this Sunday, because I know you're all preparing for the beautiful new week, and this is Monday. So let's cut it a bit faster. After a weekend of maximum tension, a glimmer of hope reopens in the arm wrestling between United States and Iran. The article's title is Iran versus the United States. Between abyss and turning point, the EU has already excluded itself. What about that? On one side, the shadow of an imminent attack. On the other hand, the hypothesis of an agreement. The last 48 hours have been a succession of threats and signs of detente. The crisis looked set for a military escalation after weeks of troop movements and internal tensions in the Islamic Republic. But from the Iranian Foreign Ministry, the announcement arrives. In the next few days, a quote-unquote framework could be defined to start new negotiations on the nuclear. So, Iran and USA between negotiation and threats. Also, Donald Trump, he seems to be reaching out for a meeting. US diplomatic channels say they are ready to sit down at the table as early as the next week Ankara, with the mediation of Turkey, Egypt and Qatar. So the contacts remain fragile. The United States deploy naval units in the area, and all requests Iran, they remain at a standstill. So definite stop to the enrichment of the uranium, limits to missiles, ballistics, and an end to support for armed groups in the region. Iran's supreme leader Khamenei warns an attack American would set fire the whole region. So Iran must also manage the home front. The Islamic Republic published a list of almost 3,000 people killed during recent protests. Meanwhile, the release of a young symbol of the riots, Erfan Soltani, who had been sentenced to death, a possible sign of relaxation and easing of pressure as the international table prepares. So Iran versus EU and European Union. If in the conflict Russia-Ukraine she was cut off in Middle East, she seems to cut herself off from the point of view diplomatic. Rather than mediating in hours of tension between the two sides with a particular timing, EU inserted the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps in the list of terrorist organizations. So a move that led on the immediate convening of all European ambassadors in Tehran. Iran defined the move a strategic error, quote-unquote, and a quote-unquote insult. So one favor for another, I guess. So it's not looking good, it's not looking good. But let's hope it gets better. So there are some news about some things which I'd rather not mention, but let's go further about maybe a little more controversial topic. But let's read the article first, that we don't say that we are letting any stone unturned. So, Minneapolis investigation. Officers who killed Pretty identified. The two officers who struck have been identified, and their names are Alex Pretty, who have been identified, basically Alex Pretty, Minneapolis. To reveal their names is ProPublica, an American site that deals with journalistic investigation. Then Jesus Ochoa, Border Patrol agent, and Raimundo Gutierrez, Customs and Border Protection officers. So on January 28, immigration police announced that they had suspended 2 officers involved in the protesters' death, but their identities remained protected. Migrants against migrants. Ochoa, 43, has joined CBP, the US Customs and Border Protection. In 2011, Guterres has been a member since 2014 and works for the Office of Field Operations. It conducts high-risk operation in a manner similar to police SWAT teams. So they are both from South Texas and operated in the context of the Metro Surgand, quote-unquote, immigration control operation with armed officers protected by anonymity in several cities. Ochoa holds a degree in criminal justice from the University of Texas Pan American, calling himself Jesse. He lives in the Rio Grande Valley, and according to his ex-wife's statement, enlisting in the Border Patrol represented his dream. Change ICE agent policy. The next day of the shooting, the authorities has tried to maintain the strictest secrecy regarding responsibilities. But now the attitude has also changed as a result of Donald Trump's decision and the removal of Gregory Bovino from the top of ICE. Congress, Democrats and Republicans have asked transparent investigations, also to address the growing number of videos dismantling the official version of self-defense by officers. Media and social media attention now focuses on origins, quote-unquote, Latin of these 2 agents. It is easy to create controversy. A young country made up of migrants, where the native population represents a small percentage of the total population. So allegedly they found the guys. It is named in ProPublica. Maybe let's open the article and see what it says. So ProPublica says 2 CBP agents identified in Alex Pretty shooting, and yeah, it basically says, the article says the same thing. Here are a couple of pictures. I mean, look at the site. It's called ProPublica, so I guess it's pro-public. It's for the public. How true it is, I wouldn't judge at this moment, but maybe somebody else will. The next article is about the EU in the abyss. So is EU in the abyss? This one is also from February the 2nd. So Louvain, Belgium, Mario Draghi receives yet another reward for his quote-unquote exceptional contribution to European integration. Just 2 weeks ago, basically 2 weeks, on the 2nd, it was, basically 3 weeks. The former president of the council had received the Charlemagne Prize. The first winner in 1950 was Count Kalergi. In 2002, the prize was awarded to nothing less than a coin and not a person. The euro between 2023 and 2025, it was instead the turn of Zelensky and von der Leyen. In Belgium, Dragons received a honorary degree, and from the stage he rises an alarm cry that sounds more like an autopsy than a preventive diagnosis. So, quote-unquote, Europe risks to become divided, subordinate and deindustrialized. He says, immediately picked up by the all press agencies. Dragons use the future, talk about quote-unquote risk, but if you look closely, it's a photograph of the present. EU already divided, subordinate and deindustrialized. One only has to look at the scenario to understand that the future outlined by Dragons is here and new. The former president of the ECB talks about EU threatened by the United States, who quote-unquote place emphasis on the costs supported by ignoring the benefits obtained, and impose duties which indirectly affect European industry. But Europe does not risk subordination. It is already subordinate to the United States, helpless and inert in the diplomatic sphere. And then there's the China, who remembers Dragons, controls these critical junctions of global chains and use this leverage to condition others. But the EU has long been addicted to the raw materials from the rest of the world and therefore in a position of weakness. And the deindustrialization is not a boogeyman. The car crisis is not only that, caused above all by the regulations of Brussels and from far away to the Russian gas. This is how companies flee where energy costs less and relocate where the rules they are less suffocating. So drag is pragmatic federalism, quote-unquote more centralism, less democracy. Europe, it is not at risk being divided, it already is. So Dragons then evokes the birth of a European power, of a pragmatic federalism, calling for greater centralism. The door remains open, but not to those who would undermine the common purpose, he says. A message perhaps intended for states such as Hungary, who oppose decisions that would undermine their own national interests, such as support for Ukraine. And Draghi, already late on austerity, Dragons rarely applause and awards, however describing a decline that is in result of the choices of the EU, of which the former Prime Minister was one of the faces on the front lines. He had already done so in the economic sphere, after years of austerity and of contraction of the wages, had described such policies as a mistake. But even then, it says that it's out of time. It says that it's out of time, so I wouldn't know about that again. Is it out of time? Is it not out of time? Come on, I don't want to judge that. So this is it. It's about some more articles about things about Germany, but let's look at something else first. If everything is as it should be, if everything is like the articles I should be reading are in place, because I was looking at yeah. So one more and the other I will read them as they go, because I don't want to be like too exclusive. I just read something because I got other things to do today. So yeah, so in Milano, clashes at the motorcade against the Olympic Games. These are those who like the Olympic Games, and of course there are those who don't. Amongst these are the antagonists who yesterday have demonstrated precisely against the sporting event underway in Milano and Cortina. So protesters attempted to break through the police cordon on the ring road in the Corvetto area. The law enforcement agencies, they responded with tear gas to the firecrackers fire and fireworks by demonstrators. So 6 of the 7 people stopped by police and carabinieri during the clashes at the Milano anti-Olympic march were taken to the police station. The Casa dello Sport in Milano, which houses the offices of Sport e Salute and CONI, was also vandalized with red paint. The action was done by the Warriors VV, who criminal organization a quote-unquote CONI complicity in backside. The paint was removed after a police inspection. The demonstrators also expressed their opposition to environmental impact of the construction of the Olympic venues, as well as what they describe as the quote-unquote economic and social damage caused by the games. The march was organized by an activist organization that mobilized a broad coalition of grassroots sports groups, civic and environmental movements, students, housing activists, competitive unions, pro-Palestine networks, and trans-feminist collectives. Thousands and thousands of Italians are working these days to make everything work during the Olympics. So many do it as volunteers because they want their nation to look good, to be admired and respected. Then there are them, the enemies of Italy and Italians, who are demonstrating against the Olympics, causing the images to end up on television around the world. After others severed railway cables to prevent trains from leaving, solidarity once again with the police, with the city of Milano, and with all those who will see their work thwarted by these gangs of criminals, unquote. Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni wrote this on social media regarding the clashes at the Milano demonstration against the Olympics. So yeah, there you have it. The Winter Olympics are happening. They are happening in a big way, you know. And of course, it's not being unnoticed. It's not being unnoticed. Is basically it's also. This is another article from basically yesterday. It says that about this that they cut cables on the railway. So one article says that chaos reigns over severed cables. Salvini, Prime Minister of Italy, says that it was quote-unquote attack on Italy. Imagine that. So at dawn on Saturday, the train traffic stopped for 3 damages which had immediate effects on the national network. The affected area is located near the station of Bologna Central. Here, unknown persons severed the power and signaling cables, making regular transit of convoys impossible. The first stops were triggered in the first hours of the morning. Within a short time, delays has arrived up to 2.5 hours. Cancellations and diversions involving trains to high speeds, intercity, regional technicians from Rete Ferroviaria Italiana, Porfere Digos, responded to the scene. From the first checks, it was excluded hypothesis of the fault accidental. The cut appears voluntary and targeted, compatible with sabotage. During the morning, they emerged other episodes suspicions along lines connected to the Bologna hub, a fire to an electrical cabin, and the reporting of an anomalous object on a rail exchange. They strengthened the hypothesis of a coordinated action. Also, there are no official claims at the moment. The Minister of Infrastructure and Transport spoke on the matter, which is basically Matteo Salvini. So he defined the cable cutting as an quote-unquote attack. I'm sorry. So, quote of Salvini says that, let's say someone wants Italy badly, says the Vice President of the Council. I'm sorry that while I'm here in Bormio and everything is fine, I read news from Bologna where there was an attack on the railway line that is slowing everything down. An act of delinquency, unquote. By early afternoon, basically traffic had gradually been restored, but the disruption continued for hours. Thousands of passengers remained blocked or have traveled with severe delays. Once again, rapid low-cost action showed how critical infrastructure remains exposed. The investigations continue to clarify who materially severed those cables, and with one objective, investigations do not rule out the possibility that this is a demonstration act of an anarchist origin, model on what happened in France 2024 for the Olympics, the Summer Olympics. So yeah, okay, this is the news for this Sunday. So I really don't want to tire anybody up to make it too lengthy. So let's keep it at the normal length. You know, it's a little less than half an hour. It's really basic news, nothing major, you know, nothing out of proportions. Because there are, even in the mainstream media, you have more like express news, you have analysts. So this is really basic news, what is going on in the West and globally. So I hope you like it. It's in English, it's comprehensible. If you don't like it, write a critic in a comment. If you want to like talk with me or meet me, I have live shows on TikTok, search AROPL Balkans, and of course I publish also my live shows from here and there on YouTube. You can ask me questions. Thank you for being with me. Allahumma salam Muhammad Wali Muhammad Ali or Megdin Salam Taslima. Free all AROPL members, free basically any members of Ahmadi Religion of Peace and Light who is speaking for the freedom of religion, and everybody has the right to say what they like and to express what they feel about this situation in the world. So please don't feel shy to comment. Happy week ahead.